Hey everybody, and welcome to another Studio Sessions episode of The Birdish Show. As always, if you like our content, please do remember to subscribe to the channel, like, comment on this video, share it round. You can check out our merch and Patreon accounts in the description below to support our mission of making birding more accessible to people around the world. Diego, it's good to finally be back in the studio with you after all this time. It's been a long time. We've been too busy in the field.
Absolutely, mate. Shooting in the field, going birding for fun, going birding with clients. It's been great, but, I have been missing the real studio sessions, or original format. I love it.
It's fun. This is the bread and butter of the Birdish Show. This is how we started. Where have you been birding? What have you been up to?
Oh, man, a little bit around, but, one of the coolest things that I did recently was visiting the Perijá Mountains with a client. I went with Pilar, my girlfriend, and we were doing some cool videos and finding these Perijá parakeets that you've been in the area. We have a chip, actually, on the Birder Show channel about going for the Perijá parakeets. Lost bird, super colorful, super fun, endemic to Colombia and Venezuela. And we were there with a client having fun for a couple of days. It couldn't be better.
Myself, I actually have you to thank for some of my birding. As we record this, I just got back from twitching a couple of birds outside your home turf, Rio Negro in Antioquia, the lesser scorp and the chuckwill's widow, both of which are pretty rare for Colombia. With great success. Two great birds. You went to see them yourself last week, I think.
Indeed. We went with friends, and it's kind of crazy how, all the birding around is changing a little bit, and we are, thrown a little bit more into going twitching rare things for departments, for states. But you didn't only have those things as lifers. You got a few Antioquia birds on that trip too.
I got some of the more resident birds. We went down to the Magdalena Valley forest down in Rio Claro and got slaty-winged foliage gleaner. The nunlet down there, that was a really good one. I can't remember what else. What was the third one?
And the plumlet ear. You sent me a photo of the hummingbird with the pink legs.
Yeah. Nice. Good birds. Really good.
Well, stop bragging. Let's stop bragging.
But I will say for the record, before we finish bragging, like the t-shirt, looking very nice.
There you are, Birder Show merch. Stay tuned because soon you all could be wearing these beauties.
Right now. And I should say, this extremely limited edition t-shirt, you can't buy
Birder
this.
Show. What is it? What is it?
You can't buy this. My niece, Kira, hey Kira, she painted this for me for my birthday, which is very sweet.
That's great. Some cute birds there.
Nice little homemade bird t-shirt. So there we go. Yeah, exclusive. You can't buy this in the shops. Anyway, moving swiftly onwards, we should get on to our guest today. We are extremely excited to have joining us in the Birdish Show studio Isaiah Scott, aka Ikes Birding Hikes, an avid birder, natural history illustrator, and outdoor brand ambassador, who's also a student at Cornell University. Diego, I know you're quite familiar with Cornell as an ornithology student, as a biology student yourself. He's majoring in environment and sustainability with a focus on ornithology. Isaiah, welcome to the Birdish Show.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me.
No, well, thank you for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure for us. Normally I start off these interviews by asking people, and for you, I'm really interested by this because some of the people we have on the show are people that Diego and I birded with in the past, people that we kind of know personally, but we're meeting here for the first time. So I'm really interested to know how your journey with birds started.
Yeah, so my birding story, it really kind of gradually happened just over time. When I was younger, I really loved being outdoors. I love nature, and I was especially reading books about animals and dinosaurs. About the time when I was in 8th grade, I was 15 years old. I had a chance to visit Cornell University and had a chance to visit the campus. And I ran across this flyer for the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So me and my family, we took a visit to the lab, and I was just like, the first time walking in the doors, I was just blown away. And on one of the walls is this huge mural of the map of the world, but all around it is the birds that are found all over the world. And I was like, wow, I didn't know there was like so many different species of birds with these so many birds in these different colors and have these bill shapes and sizes. The diversity of birds really just inspired me. I was like, wow.
You actually bought your first binoculars from the gift shop at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, did you say?
Yes, that's right. It was it was just
That's
a
awesome.
little, cheap pair, but it really just started the beginning of a journey that has just opened lots of doors, and that has just been a wonderful experience so far. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing, the thing that I noticed so much from sort of, reading some interviews with you and checking out your social media pages before this interview is that, and Diego and I are both, we're not that old, but we're not spring chickens ourselves. You know what I mean? Whereas you're very
Of
young,
course,
to be
no,
fair, to have
yeah.
achieved the things that you've achieved, because you look through the list of things you've done, and the thing that jumped out at me was, wow, this is all while still. What are you, second year in college? Second year at the Cornell level? Third year now?
Second year, yes, that's right.
So a lot of people will know you who follow this page or who follow you, or following you through your Instagram page, which is Ikes Birding Hikes. And now,
Yes.
to give some context to that name refers to you started doing these local birding tours when you were still in high school in your local area, right?
Yes, so Ike's Burning Hikes, it really originated as I was in 4-H, which is a organization where they do different, just really a lot of like workshops and different leadership. And so I was presenting on a bird called the American white ibis, which y'all are familiar with, I'm sure. And I just really loved that bird, and I did like a little presentation about uh, just what they ate, just everything about them, their natural history and their migration patterns. And really, I was like, well, what can I do differently and kind of change about it? And I was like, what if I added and made it feel like the presentation is like a bird watching hike, and I'll call it Ike's Birding Hikes. And so my mother, she also she helped me come up with the idea, and so I made it like a script, like I was bringing people along with me on the hike during my presentation, and we're seeing the American white ibis. And then so that's where it kind of originated. And then I was thinking, like, after uh spending time birding, I just had this desire. I was like, I really want to share this with other people, with my friends, my family, and just in my community, and like just tell everyone about how cool bird watching is. So I was like, what if I actually like bring Ike's Birding Hikes into reality and actually start leading hikes? And so um, with the connection and the help of my teachers and just very supportive mentors, they helped me bring to life my first Ike's Birding Hikes, and I led my first hike there. And and then also I got a connection with my local Audubon Society, who actually they love how I was leading all these hikes and sharing the experience of bird watching with others. That they made me like a honor a honorable member of the club. So I was like, wow, that's
Nice.
really awesome. So it's really been yeah.
So, is there another thing that I see when I go on your website is that you are also an extremely talented bird artist. Some of the paintings you've got on your website are really incredible. Really clearly a big talent of yours as well. I was wondering, what kind of came first? Was it the birds and nature or the art? Did you kind of discover the art through the love of birds, or had you always drawn since you were young?
Yeah, so my passion for art as well also developed at a young age. Um, I really want to say I was drawing, like doodling first, before I really got into nature and wildlife and animals. But I did like fuse those interests together, and I would draw animals. And um, I know it's kind of funny. I was actually doing bird art when I was like in elementary school, because I was also in love with dinosaurs and prehistoric animals. I was drawing terror birds, the prehistoric predatory birds. And I thought they were just so cool. I was like, wow. So I just like draw them. I made like posters. And
Nice.
so yeah,
Have you seen that there's a field guide? Someone just released, Diego, right?
Yeah, like prehistoric birds or something like that.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's amazing. It's like they've created a field guide as if we all lived in that era.
There are some old ones. Like, no, this is an old one. This is glorified dinosaurs, and there is also extinct birds that we have shown in the show. But Chris, you said it's like a field guide to go out and see your dinosaurs. It's super cool.
Wow.
That's so cool. Yeah, you should definitely check that book out. I think you would love that book.
Definitely, yeah. I love to go like time traveling.
What a cool idea as well, right?
Yeah.
Time traveling birding. Not countable, not ABA.
What, you mean we can't I can't e-bird terror birds?
Yeah.
You're saying, Diego, I can't, not an option for that. That would trip the filter big time.
Yes.
Nice. And I mean, like I said, this is a list of things going on, but I was reading that you also received the Echoberry Fellowship in 2021, which is a fellowship that endows nature artists with the goal of enhancing the impact of their work. And I read that you have some pretty interesting kind of unique plans for that endowment. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so in 2020, a friend of mine, they ran by me the Echoberry Fellowship and recommended that I apply for it. And so I was like, wow, this seems like a very great opportunity for me, as a nature artist, to, I guess, develop my first book or publication. And so I was like brainstorming, to propose a book idea. And so, as much as I love birds and nature, I also have an interest in learning about my heritage and like cultural background, and kind of what is the intersection between those two interests, and what is something that I could really, a story that I can tell that's never really been told before. And so I was wondering, because so my heritage is Gullah Geechee, and Gullah Geechee people are descendants of enslaved Africans along the coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and northern Florida. And so I was, during this time of coming up with an idea for the book and how it relates to nature, art, and birds, I was thinking about what is the relationship or any connections of birds to Gullah Geechee people, to their culture, just their history, or their way of life, or just day to day. Like, so for example, like what birds would they have seen, or even during the time of slavery, what were the enslaved African people who were always outdoors, always in nature, and literally were forced to transform landscapes into productive rice fields. And what birds were they seeing, and were there any feelings, or were they inspired, get like an inspiration of freedom from birds, or any how did birds help them just survive and endure just the horrific times of slavery?
Man, you have like exploring, like your own story and the story of many people, and combine it with birds. We've seen in the Birder Show many people combining birding science with conservation, music, their histories. But this one is pretty unique. And as a side note, and I don't know if we talk about this once, Chris, there is a mannequin. There is a small, very colorful bird that is called nowadays Macheropterus eckleberrii. It has the name of your grant, of the guy that was your grant inspired. So you have to go to northern Peru and see,
there you go,
and see that endemic mannequin, man. That's a task that you need to do.
There you go. The Echoberries mannequin in northern Peru.
I have to go see it now.
It's actually a relatively recent described species. That's super cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool.
Finding excuses to have fun and go birding.
Yeah, this is exactly. Yeah, you can tell the Echoberry Grant people, I have to go to northern Peru. It's important. It's vital. That's so cool. But actually, talking about going to northern Peru and international travel, we have to chat about this, because from following your social media, I saw that you recently returned from your first ever sort of full international birding trip, your first kind of tropical international birding trip. You were in Costa Rica, in an area that
Yes.
Diego and I were briefly in together in 2020. Can you tell us a bit more about that trip?
Yeah, so I had a 5-day trip in Costa Rica, and it was with the family. But of course, during that time, I had to take the opportunity to do some awesome birding, and also try to do a virtual Ikes birding hikes there, and like a first international Ikes birding hikes. One kind of first birding experience I had there was I was doing some birding in the car on the way to the resort. And so I was looking out, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, let's see what birds I can find. And I look out and I see these two birds flying over the tree line, and they were flapping their wings like very fast, and they had a short tail. And I was like, okay, what is that? Is that a like a weird duck? What is it? And so and I mixed it. I was like, yeah. So I mixed it. I was like, okay, let me keep my eyes peeled, because I'm like, I had no idea what bird that was. And then I saw the birds again, and I realized those were white-fronted parrots.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa! I was just seeing not only just like the bird species, but like just seeing new behaviors that I never seen before. Just in flight styles and of birds was just very exciting and very surprising.
I love the birding from the car story because, and this is an aside, this is a personal side, but I think I've ever told this story before on the show, because I love birds since I was really small. And I remember once we went on a family holiday to California. I was really little. I was maybe 8 years old, doing the whole like Disneyland, all the stuff you do when you're a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to spot birds using my North American field guide out of the car window, while my dad, an English driver, was trying to figure out how to drive in LA, which if you've ever been to LA, you'll know is famously an absolute nightmare, right? So my dad's trying to navigate these 12-lane highways and think, while I'm in the back saying, do you think that was a tree swallow or whatever it is? My dad eventually, I think, one of the first ever times I think my dad has actually, he's a very non-shouty parent, but I think it was one of the very few times when he might have slightly raised his voice to me as a young child was, would you stop trying to identify birds out of the car window in downtown Los Angeles?
Man, that's fun. That's fun. And as I always said, I'm so jealous of you guys starting birding at a young age. I started, when I was 20. You guys started when you were, wearing Pampers, basically. And, one thing that I was wondering of your trip to Costa Rica, man, is what was the main difference on the feeling you got as a person birding? Like, you are in North America and you are in a park. You could be seeing a lot of warblers. That's copious. That's a lot of birds. But being in the tropical rainforest is a completely different experience. What was your first feeling like? Where I am? What's wrong with this birding? What was your novelty there?
I guess one word that really comes to mind is very overwhelming. I remember when I first got out, there was like this little nature area outside the resort, and I was trying to do some birding, and that was like my first experience really like on the ground with my binoculars birding, and there were so many bird noises. I was trying to learn some sound ID, like I use Merlin to try to really memorize, and just like, okay, I don't really want to miss any birds just because I don't know how to ID them. Like, I want to know their calls. But it's really, when I got in the field, I was like, there was a clay colored thrush, there was great kiskadee, and then I was like, oh, dang, what are those small little birds flying? Dang it, I missed them. Hummingbird just flew past me. I'm just like, so it was just
fun.
very,
you kind of tune into the frequency, right? Like I remember the first time I was birding in Colombia, you see these mixed flocks in the cloud forest. And when I first started, I probably missed 50% of the birds that I was seeing, just trying to focus on some individuals, be like, right, there's 10 different bird species here going crazy. I need to focus on 2 or 3. But once you find the frequency a little bit, then you kind of get used to it, right?
Right, yeah. I really adapted to the natural surroundings and the bird assemblages there, and it was it's really cool how I don't know how birders do that. It's like when you go and travel and you're just able to, after you just start seeing the birds, hearing them, it's like they just just really just soak into your mind. You're just able to just kind of pick up on the birds that you're hearing and seeing.
Yeah, it's good. I always think it's a bit like learning the language, right? It's a bit like learning a
Yes.
language. Like you go to a new place and you kind of learn some phrases at first, and then eventually you learn a little bit more, and then suddenly you can communicate. So you were in Guanacaste province. So I'm guessing like Palo Verde National Park. Diego and I, when we were in Costa Rica in 2020, we briefly touched upon Palo Verde National Park. I remember it well because we got great birds, but we dipped that lesser ground cuckoo, which still frustrates me to this day because that bird is so cool.
Indeed, indeed. We barely had time in the area.
Yeah, I didn't. That was one of the birds that I was looking forward to see. I had it on my list, and I didn't get to
Such a
see it.
good
It
bird.
evaded
Such a
me,
good bird.
so I was like, wow.
Same. We had one calling super close, and those little things are, they're tricky birds, man.
And they're, ground cuckoos, so they're hard to see, but they're easier, way easier than the regular ground cuckoo. So you expect like, oh, I should see these. And man, we spent quite a few time. I have a really crappy video from like my first one. We might be actually
Show on
showing
the
it right
screen.
now on the show. That is just, like going there around, walking. This is probably 2006 in Honduras.
You're just there with your great big manual camera.
Yeah, almost like that. Almost like that. Like, more tape, please.
Speaking
More
of
tape.
dinosaur birds, I say we've got one here on screen.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I remember because personally, I'm a big fan of dry forest, tropical dry forest habitat. I love birding tropical dry forest habitat. One of my favorite ecosystems to bird, and that's Palo Verde has a lot of that, right? I mean, were there any birds that you went down there thinking, I have to see this bird, and that you managed to see? Like, what were the big targets?
Yes, one off the bat was the turquoise-browed motmot, and um, in the around the resort and in the Guanacaste region, I saw that it was a likely bird that I would see. Like it was pretty common. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be on the lookout. And so I walked around some trails and I went and walked in near this golf course and they had like some stands of trees. And so I was kind of walking and walking, and then all of a sudden from the ground flew up this bird with its long tail, and it had like these two uh, like tail feathers with the little
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 rackets at
rackets
the
at
end,
the
right?
end, and it flew up at a branch, and it had like this little like it was caught like an insect or something. And then right when I saw the tail, I was like, "That's a turquoise brown motmot." I finally saw it. I was like,
And I was just gonna say, and I'm not making that up, when you were telling your story of the motmot, and the motmot was calling outside here. I have a little forest behind. So, they perch here. When I put bananas, that I don't do it all the time, they come, but it was there like boop, boop. It might be at the
Andy and
background of our
Motmot.
recording today.
Dude, seriously, you've got to come and bird in Colombia one day. I mean, if you like motmots, you go in any little town in the coffee region and they're perched on the wires in the town hanging out. They're super curious. Iconic birds. Iconic. In the Colombian coffee region, I'd say Andean motmot is probably the most iconic bird, Diego, I would say, right? I mean,
Everyone knows them. Everyone knows them. They are all over the place. They nest in banks, like most of the motmots. They do holes. They nest, cavity nesters. So people call them barranqueros because barranco is the word for bank, and landslides or something like that. And everyone has a barranquero nearby their home in this
it's like the
elevation.
classic bird for the Colombian Andean region. But speaking of, birding in Colombia, so you've just had your first kind of taste of birding in the tropics in Costa Rica. I'm assuming, I mean, if you're like me as a birdie, you want to bird everywhere. Obviously, any country in the world is interesting if you're a birder because there's always something new. But is there any place that's particularly high on your want to go there kind of list? Your birding travel list?
Hi, let's see. Wow, I have like so many places. Um, I know this one place. I don't know too much about the birds there, but it's just like I discovered about this area, and I was like, wow, I have to go there. And it's called Manipool, Zimbabwe, and I always wanted to go bird watching somewhere on the continent of Africa, like whether in South Africa, and I know birding is popular there, or in Equatorial Guinea, just but Manipool, Zimbabwe, it's just this very just beautiful uh savanna habitat, and just also they just have the large mammals there, elephants and antelopes, and just all the very iconic sub-Saharan African mammals. And I know a little bit about the birds there. I know they have a lot of like bee eaters. I know the hammerkop. I do want to see that bird. That's a really cool bird.
Okay, so Isaiah, normally we kind of finish up these conversations with some questions from the audience and then a little quickfire question round. So Diego, I believe you have a couple of audience questions.
Yeah, and actually this time was fun because we asked to the general audience that we have about what they were interested in knowing from you, and we got a few from really young kids. There's this group, a couple of friends of ours, Nikki and Mauro, have this group that is called Guardianes de las Aves, the Guardians of Birds, and they have dozens of kids around the country. And Tomas, one of these young kids, was asking and wondering, like, if when you were young, you were watching or thinking yourself, nowadays when you're almost 20, as a, bird watcher or guide or anything, and where do you see when you're an adult, like 20 something, 30, do you see yourself guiding? Do you see yourself teaching? Do you see yourself researching? Where do you see yourself in 10 years with birds?
Yes, so in 10 years, I see myself traveling around the world, birding, of course, continuing birding. But I also see, I plan to launch Ikes Birding Hikes as a nonprofit organization where I connect and collaborate with communities and groups and maybe national parks and nature preserves all around the world to lead hikes and to just share the beneficial experience of bird watching with other people and with everyone. And I really also see myself just really inspiring the next generation of birders, conservationists.
That's cool. That's cool. You already started to get everyone inspired. So
yeah, you've got a great head start on that mission as well.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
Yeah. Nice. And the other question was also from a very young one, Sophie. Sophie, she's starting her university and she started birding since a very young age. And she was wondering about social media and birds. And I mean, you have a very important, good channel and stuff. She was wondering how to really educate and canalize like the good information, because all of the garbage that we see on the social media nowadays, how to make this thing work and properly with birds.
Yeah, so with creating content about birds, I really just communicate information and like ornithological content, and maybe I do just like some trends, like if I see some social media trends uh, or just sharing the videos about bird watching with birds with trendy music, and really just try to make it relatable and just something fun and memorable that young viewers and not only just young viewers, just people in general, uh, and just really share that bird watching content in a way that they'll be able to learn and uh, to really get inspired to go birding, get outdoors, and healthy content rather than garbage and different other things that are just put on social media that may not be impactful for our health or just for us. And yeah.
I wanted to ask you quickly, actually, before we get on to the quickfire questions, because one thing I saw that you were involved in a lot over the last, probably only a couple of years, really, is an initiative called Blackbirds Week, which is a really, really wonderful thing, I think. Could you just for the audience who might not be familiar with what that is, can you explain a little bit more about what Blackbirds Week involves?
So Blackbirds Week, it was launched in 2020, and it's basically a week-long celebration, and it's virtual through mainly through Instagram and through Twitter, and it's really just celebrating and showing Black people who are bird watching in nature, who are scientists, ornithologists, just really just very influential and amazing people who are just changing the face of bird watching.
Sense
Yeah,
of
that's
community,
great.
you said.
That's great.
There you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite things about birding is the friendships that you develop through it. Some of my best friends are people I met through birding, and it's wonderful to have. And like I said, going back to the good, positive side of social media, I think is being able to use it to create communities from niche communities, able to kind of come together and find each other in that way. I think is a wonderful thing. To finish off, Isaiah, because we could, as we always say on the Bird Show, we could probably chat for hours and hours about this subject because none of us ever get bored of talking birds, right? But we're going to like to finish off with a little quick fire question round for our guests. So this is just kind of first thing, well, not very first thing that comes into head, but it's just, what you think when I ask you these questions, right? Okay, so the first question is, always start with this one, your favorite bird of all time.
Painted bunting. Painted bunting is my favorite bird.
Your spark bird too, no?
Is that your spark bird?
Yes, spark bird, yes.
It must be a fun bird to draw. I assume you've painted a painted bunting as a bird.
Many times. I love painting that bird.
I dream of getting that bird for Colombia. We don't really get that bird here. Occasionally, super rare ones turn up on San Andres Island in the Caribbean. I would love to get that bird in Colombia. Your dream bird to see, the bird you most want to see.
Dream bird. Let's see. Wow, that's a very good one. Okay.
It changes day to day as well. Okay. That's the problem with that.
Don't worry, man. Come in a month and you put it in the comments.
One that I do want to see is why can I not think of one? I guess one really just magnificent bird is the great hornbill. I think that would be a very cool bird to see. Yeah.
That's one of mine as well. That's one of my dream birds as well. Great hornbill, absolutely. Diego, you seen a great hornbill before? No.
No. Only seen a couple of species in Africa. So they're the terrestrial ones. Yeah. Never seen the Asian ones.
Southern ground hornbill I've got in Africa. That's a cool bird.
We should make something up and see some Asian hornbills with the Birder Show.
Yes. Man. The Birder Show in Southeast Asia. Let's
invite me too.
Let's do it. Anyone out there? We're waiting for your call. Yeah, and Isaiah's coming with. Just so you guys know, if you invite us, Isaiah's coming with. That's a deal breaker. Right. Nemesis bird, a bird you've really tried to see but you haven't managed to.
Yeah,
if there is one.
Is the reddish egret. That bird I've looked for it many times, and they're found along the coast of Georgia. I've also went in Florida and during a time of year where they're supposed to be there. I even went kayaking to go in like a sand bar, like mangrove, to try to find them. Couldn't find them. Yeah.
So you've tried hard for this bird. You've put some effort in.
Yes.
Okay. Super, pretty common on the Colombian Caribbean coast. So when you come down here, we can sort that out. No problem. We can sort that bird out for you. Okay, so your favorite bird song?
I think it would have to be the Painted Bunting. Yeah, that's my favorite. Yeah, I was trying to think of another one. I was like I'm really thinking Painted Bunting.
I see a theme here. Yes, I see a theme, huh?
Painted Bunting. Yeah, no, to be fair.
Very melodious song.
There you go. Okay. We always ask people this, binoculars, 8s, 10s, 12s?
Oh, like binocular size. I think mine is 12.
You have some pretty colourful binoculars, right? You have some pretty colourful binoculars.
I use 10s, yes. Yeah. So, I guess 10s, yeah, kind of in the middle, yeah.
Yeah, I think 10s. I mean, 10s, Diego and I both prefer 8s, but we're doing a lot of birding in low light cloud forest, picking up mixed flocks. I think it's better than that. Whereas 10s, open country birding. I
got curious with your orange cool beans. Show us a little bit more. Can you show it to us? That's a pretty cool,
Yeah, so
showy.
These are from Knox Provisions. These are the 10 by 42s, and they Knox binoculars. They come as they have these really cool straps. Cool strap. And kind of matches my my teal sweatshirt, but yeah.
Is that a blue wing teal?
Oh yeah,
is that
blue wing teal. Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Just saw one of those the other day in Antioquia. They migrate down our way at this time of year. So that's nice. That's a cool T-shirt. I like it.
I actually have one of those quick fire questions here. bird or ornithology character, person that have inspired you the most?
I think the ornithologist that inspired me the most was Dr. J. Drew Lanham, and he's a very phenomenal and poetic book writer. It's really he was one of the first birders that looked like me that I saw out bird watching in the field, and actually last year I had the opportunity to meet him, and we were in a magazine together, and it was just very cool. They kind of wanted to do like a story about a mentor and a mentee, and so just he really paved the way for a lot of just black birders and
Cool.
and yeah, just very inspiring, and I really hope to be like him one day.
One of the chaps we have on our list of people to invite to the show, you know?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Isaiah. And for everybody watching at home, all of Isaiah's website and social media channels will be in the description below. Do go and follow him on Instagram because it really is brilliant content. And if you want to, inspire someone around you, a particularly young person, to get passionate about birds, I think there's no one better you could be following right now, along with the Birdish Show, of course. Isaiah, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And Diego, as always. Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much,
Isaiah. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you so much, Chris and
Diego. Well, hopefully we'll get to see you down in Colombia.
Yes,
down in Colombia.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't wait. Got my passport ready. Just that.
It's happening. We're going to make that happen.
Yeah,
let's make that happen.
Let's make that happen.
Wow.
We're going to make that happen. Absolutely. And of course, thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please do remember to like, subscribe, comment, check out our Patreon and merchandise links in the description below so you can support our mission to make birding accessible to people all around the world. Diego's sporting a very nice t-shirt right now. Of course, you want to get on that. Remember, this one, limited edition. You'll have to get in touch with my niece. She doesn't have a phone yet, I don't think, so you'll struggle. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Birdish Show.